So today I want to talk to you about how to overcome failure and build a strong mind, or how to build a strong mind while overcoming failure. This is actually a very interesting subject that that I have a hard time uh, um, creating actually because there's so many things I can talk about overcoming failure. I'm not sure even to where to begin to speaking about it. Failure used to be something that used to get to me a lot. Something that prevented a lot of the things I wanted to do in my life, and a lot of the things I tried to do in my life because of how I failed in the past. Those thoughts of failure would always get to me and prevent me from moving to the next step. So because of that, I had I had a hard time dealing with failure in my life. So that's one of the reasons I turned towards books, because I felt like there's a lot of things I have to do in my life, but I continue to fail. One of the first moments of failure that I didn't know how to deal with it when I was in high school, when I was playing rugby. We essentially lost the championship game, the finals game, and I gave essentially everything I got. But after a while, because I was very new to this concept of failure and how the extent of I really didn't know how to deal with it at the time. And I remember being very upset and taking responsibility to what has happened. And it was very difficult. And the same thing happened when I was in high school, where um, you know a lot of the courses I was taking in the first first few years, grade 9 and 10, I failed a lot of courses. I think I failed grade 9 math, even though I came from Sri Lanka and supposed to know math really well, but not I didn't do well. I think I ended up with like 40s or something. And the same thing with grade 9 geography. Uh, I failed that one as well. So same with grade 10. I failed. I think in math twice. I failed grade 10 math twice or three times, and then I failed grade 10 science. So failure is something. And then also, actually, funny enough, I think in grade 11 I failed like computer science and things like that as well. So I'm definitely not. I haven't haven't had things gone my way all the time in my life. There's a lot of things that I wanted to do in my life, and then failure actually, the feelings of failure and what had the thoughts that created because of failure. And then when I look at my past, um, it did affect me when I'm trying to do later things in my life. Um, but now, when I look at my failure, I notice that failure without my failures actually couldn't I can't be where I am at today. And then one of the reasons I say that is because um, without failure I don't know what skills I should have been mastered. I realized that once I started to become more comfortable with failing, I actually started to become more, develop more skills, a lot more things I can do in my life. It's funny, what you will realize is that once you started to master failure, you don't almost look at failure as something, almost an emotion that you have to overcome. It's almost then you realize failure and developing skill, it's almost the same thing. Because think about it this way. If you're not taking in enough action, so for example, say that you want to become a basketball player. If you're not playing enough, if you're not playing the game enough, be that with the pro guys, with the pro guys in the gym, or some guys across the street, right? If you're truly not making enough attempts, if you're not putting your chances of failure, because every event, if you look at any life event, if you were to take any decision in your life, there's a certain component of a probability of failure that is associated to it. um, the way I see is that you need to accumulate a lot of those probabilities to kind of develop skills that will help you overcome failure, right? The failure, I feel, is that more action you take, more you will eventually fail. I mean, if you don't take enough action, then you can minimize the number of times you fail. Then you're not really overcoming failure. You're just trying to overcome the fact that you're weak, right? By not participating on enough action. And I see that lot of you guys, they, because when you go through a lot of failures or self-conceived failures in your life, you stop taking action that will benefit you later on, because you define your failures be identified by you, which is nothing wrong with it, letting your failures be identified by you. But the thing is, what happens is that much of that the learning that you have gotten because you have failed, you're not using that to create something more beautiful again. You're just keeping it to yourself. Oh, I failed, I can't do anything, everything I do is shit, or it doesn't go the way I want. And you start thinking these thoughts, which is not necessarily useful, right? Because if you're failing, you're going to fail anyway. You can't change that. But the thing is, what you can do, the number of times you have created opportunities for yourself, rather than identifying yourself with failure, rather identify yourself with number of opportunities that you get into, and try to weigh if you can maximize that opportunity for your more benefit. Because what happens is that when you participate on more and more opportunities that has possibility for failure, has a huge also a chance of being successful as well. So if you're continually focusing on as studying your failures, studying the areas you actually made mistakes and things like that, your probabilities of success will continually increase. This is how nature is designed. This is not up to you to decide, right? If you continually observe your weaknesses and how you failed in life, or how you got things wrong in your life, if you continually take the similar action or similar opportunity, not similar action, similar opportunities, and you continue to master those opportunities and bring whatever you want to create to the world in a continuous fashion, very likely those failure probabilities will continue to pass through and will be converted into probabilities of success. So rather than you having probability of a failure about 60%, if you continually study your weaknesses and things like that, and the weaknesses of the other and the success of the other, if you study these things, if you turn to books, or if you turn to audiobooks, or even listen to what I'm saying, you can start to analyze these things. There are certain patterns associated to failure, and failure is not failure. It's a failure exists because you created a specific objective, and the information that gave back to you based on the objective you created and the actions you've taken is maybe not enough. So what the outcome you wanted, you didn't get it. Doesn't mean that you're a bad person or you don't know anything, you're stupid. You just didn't have the right outcome, the right resources, right knowledge to get to the goal you need to go. Nothing to do with failure, right? It just the goal wasn't up, the goal didn't accept your actions. Basically, it wasn't enough, and that's nothing to do with about you. You need to know a little bit more. You need to work hard a little bit more if you want to get there. So that's how I see failure. As a failure is not something that we need to I feel like overcome, because we also have this idea that we have to overcome failure. Well, you don't need to overcome failure, like I said, if you're continually creating situation that you would fail. No, I rather sit back, understand what the opportunities you do want to participate in, instead of just overcoming for failure's sake. Figure out, I want to take more of these opportunities, more of these action, be that business, or making sales, be that practicing a specific shot in basketball, or be that you're become a good speaker. If you want to do these things, if you want to be good at any of these things, isolate the couple of very specific actions that if you were to give them, that will give yield you the best result. Like if you're in business, if you want to be good in business, being good at on the technical aspect. Like if you're a musician, if you being good at music is not enough. You need to develop sales. Then you need to understand, if you don't develop sales of, and you are trying to sell it, because if you're just creating music for your enjoyment and friends enjoyment, that's perfect. But if you want to sell it for somebody, you need to learn the skill of sales. You can't, then you need to go out there and show it to people. Look, I'm selling this. You know, do you want to try listening to it? Here's my free stuff. You need to, whatever it is, you need to develop that sales skills, right? And take more opportunity to the fact that you need to sell now, not more opportunity to the fact that you need to make music. If you don't like selling, that's fine. But don't complain about the fact that you failed because you couldn't sell it to the right amount of people. It means nothing to do with the fact that you're a bad artist or you're not good at your music. It means you weren't a good seller, and therefore failure will come. That's what you define your goal as, the fact that how many people buy your music. No, if you want to say how many people buy music, you need to talk about sales and the quality of the music. Some the quality of the music doesn't even matter, right? But selling needs to be, because your success is measured by that. So you understand that it's the same thing when you're playing sports, right? Understand the skills that is necessary for you to master. For example, say that if you want to go to the NBA, playing basketball, you need to understand that you can't just master one or two skills. You need to make sure that you need to have right amount of height. Even if your height's not there, you need to understand that if your height's not there, you need to compensate to the amount of right skills. Like you can see when you watch a game, do you have the similar skills, or can you even have the same mental willpower as the guys who are playing there to get there? If you know you can go there and you don't have the willpower, then you don't complain about overcoming failure or being upset about. Rather, if you truly want to go enjoy playing basketball, I say go play anyway. Don't worry about overcoming failure. If you fail, you fail, because the only reason you failed, you created this some unmatchable expectation. Sometimes the expectation that we have created for ourselves, it cannot be matched with what our capabilities are at that time, right? So even same with the knowledge, you might not have the right knowledge at that time to go there. So more you play the game, more you try to focus and try to understand where you make mistakes, it will be a lot easier for you. You don't need to hold on to your failures, because everybody makes mistakes. You don't think these players, basketball players, the CEOs who come into, these entrepreneurs, they don't make any mistakes in their life? Because I would say that the fact that if you fail more early in your life, because you used to getting things going on your way, you become very refined thinker. You become a very sharp thinker, because you make mistakes all the time. You started to see your weaknesses all the time. If you started to do that, you will later on in your life, you started to make less and less mistakes. You know why? Because you studied the mistakes you make. You studied the mistakes other people make. You've seen the errors in judgment that others have and you have. And when you have these tools, when you continually study your past and then about your failures, it gives you this sense of empowerment that no failure can stop you. And that's what I see. Your failures are essentially your gems. That if you can love the failures you had, if you can say, what, man, some of the mistakes or the failures that I've had in my life actually led me to great things. I can give another example. The fact that when I was studying for the CFA, I failed on the first attempt. I failed on the first attempt, but I failed. I had a chance to pass it. I failed on 10th band. That means if I got one or two questions, I would have passed it. But I felt like when I failed it, I felt like a biggest failure, because at that time I essentially quit work and just went on just studying for it. Right? But I studied my ass off, like literally about 10 hours, 14 hours a day. I was going at it, studying for that exam to pass it. But at the end, I couldn't do it, and I was depressed a lot. And now I look back in my life, I realize, man, everything, all the skills I still have the things that I studied for. Now I can use it and talk to you guys and give you guys what I know, because what I've learned from the CFA. But what I learned is how to overcome failure and not let that be identifying factor of me. I feel like if I pass that exam, I won't be able to go and do things that a lot more risk oriented and also has more opportunity to more of things of mine to fail, or more of things to lose when I fail, right? But I got used to it. I realized, man, even if I give everything I got, even if I fail, if I can come out of that, I can come out of anything. That's what I'm saying, how failure will help you build a strong mind. Use your failures as a form of platform, a way you can bounce off, up to a place of more understanding, a place of being able to create more value to the world in spite of your failures. Use your failures as your strengths, your assets. Because if my failures didn't guide me, I wouldn't be taking on more bigger and better challenges. If I didn't fail enough early in my life, how would I know how to overcome the later more dangerous, more cooler stuff, later in my life? So I realized that when I started to overcome my failures, that my failures didn't identify me. Like, I don't, much of you guys might be still thinking about how you didn't do this, how you should have done this in past, your past, right? And this is the thing, like, I wish, I should have invested in this. I should have not, put my money in that. I lost everything. But okay, I understand you have these thoughts. Then I do this. I had these thoughts as well. But the thing is there anything you can do with the information that you have available now when you look at the past? Or are you gonna still feel bad about the things you've done in the past, and not take any action for the future? What I'm not saying that you must take action to correct your past. That's not what I'm saying. Observe the past, understand where you went too fast, where you went too slow. I can give you one of the biggest problems I had in my life when I look at the points of failures in my life is where I was extremely impatient. What I mean by that, I want to, make money as soon as possible, get the grades, high grades as soon as possible, get as many skills under my belt as soon as possible. This impatient always guided me to get the things I want, and it was very useful in order to master skills and get to a place I really wanted. But the problem is, it also led me to a huge amount of failures that you guys don't know about. The sheer number of activity that I had to take and go through the failure, it's not seen, it's not discussed, because it's part of the successes that is within me. So, individually, I didn't look at them as failure. I started to look at them, okay, this is part of the process I need to go through. If I need to be successful at this thing, depending on, how much I don't know how to get there, there are certain number of times I need to fail at something. I accepted that. I realized part of failing is part of the process. If I don't accept, or if I only expect only success to be part of the goals that I have to accomplish, then that's not a goal that I want to go after. I realize that sometimes, in order to have the proper lessons in your life, there's certain triggers, there's certain reality, there's certain things that need to go wrong, so to show you, look, there's certain ways you're not looking at certain things in your life for the proper way. So at those points when you go, make mistake, take a little break, observe around, take a look what's going on. Does it happen because of your error of judgment, or did you really not have any control over this? Right? So that understanding your failures are part of the process. Always understand, when you go through a difficult time, when you're going, things are not going your way, understand this is probably the part of process where I want to go. For me, after realizing, going through my failures and things like that, I realized that that failures cannot overpower my brain, or it cannot take a hold of my thoughts, or it cannot take hold of my mind and make me feel like crap for the things I've done in the past. And the way I got there is having these things, the understanding, look, failure is part of I don't even look at it as failure. It's just activity I've taken that did not yield the result I wanted. Simply, the activities I've taken didn't yield the result I wanted. That's nothing to do with failure. It's just saying that the actions I've taken is not enough to get to where I want. That's a simpler understanding, instead of saying, oh, I failed, which is an incorrect understanding. Well, if you consider that to be failure, then you can. But thinking, I still doesn't let me stop from what I want to do because I failed, because it's no use. If I tried something, might as well go try again, right? So this is another thing I wanted to focus on. Like, what do you do when you fail? Rest. right? When you realize you have failed in your life, rest a bit, understand how you failed. Don't have to take action right away. Understand, okay, take responsibility of failure. Understand, this is the reason I think it's a failure. Understand it is a true failure. What type of failure it is? Is it coming because of your misunderstanding, lack of knowledge, or is it coming from a place of you need to have better resources, right? Much of you guys don't even, because don't think about even your failures in an objective fashion, because you're so scared that you might get your little feelings hurt again. Yeah, every time, if you're worried about getting your feelings hurt, then don't take actions that will improve your life. Make a decision not to do that. Then you won't be able to go through in your life if you're always worried about not going things your way. I will tell you this, things will, in your past, how many times when you're according to your plan, your way of thinking, not 100%, right? So what makes you think in the future it will go the 100% the way you think it will go? 100% that it will not go your way. So if you understand these probabilities, then why are you expecting that everything you do in your life will go the way you want? That's an unreasonable expectation to have of yourself. So especially when that expectation fails, when things do actually in fact don't go the way you want. Well, the fact that if you take responsibility, complete responsibility, that's great. That you should be taking responsibility. That this is the reason this happened, because you didn't know that. Take responsibility, but don't attach it to your personality. Don't think you're a failure. That's another illogical. It's another weak way of categorizing your activities and not respecting your own self for putting yourself out there to get something that is more valuable from the world, right? And I think that if nature has created these beautiful things and beautiful phenomena, we are not using to learn to maximize our experience. When we fail, we actually want others to fail as well. And this is another problem I see, is that especially when you realize that you have gone through a lot of failures in life, we have this unnecessary need to make sure that other people are also not having success, or other people are also experiencing failure. We almost derive satisfaction when we see another people failing. So if you're having these thoughts around and running around and expecting these things to happen to other people's life, where you don't want others to be successful either, well, understand that other people around you might have similar thoughts of you like that. Like I always say, I feel like whatever you push to the world is whatever you get back. And one of the things I started to do, I started to find a way, how do I make sure that people are empowered to make decisions for themselves, so that they are no longer making decisions that are beyond, that are controlling them or manipulating them. How do they make the decisions that are beneficial to them? And the way you do that is understanding. Stop thinking this negative shit about other people, right? Like, focus on understanding your weaknesses. Come to an understanding that there's a lot of weaknesses within you. That's one of the reasons why you think shitty things about other people. So, especially when you want to overcome, failure and things like that. How are you supposed to overcome failure when you're, every person you come across, you're trying to put them down or finding their creation not useful or not good? Right? Imagine other people doing the same thing to you, making you feel unnecessarily or feelings of failure all the time. Understand, if you're struggling from failure, right? If you're struggling from emotions of failure, maybe the other people in your life might be struggling with the same thing. Maybe if you go help them kind of do something that is more useful with themselves, or encourage them when they create something beautiful. It might not be good. Maybe for them, you give them encouragement, saying, "Yo, your work is not bad, but I think you can improve. Doing this and that." I think being open and encourage the creation and helping another person overcome their failures is one of the easiest ways you can help yourself overcome failure. Right? At least that's the way I see it. One of the biggest way I have overcome failure is, help other people overcome failure. Understand much of the things I considered as failures when the expectation that I've created for myself didn't have enough actions yielded towards that, or my action didn't yield the outcome I wanted. So I have to reevaluate my amount of action I needed, the amount of interest I need to go after that goal. So I realized certain cases I don't care about the goal enough to output that kind of action, right? And when I know that I don't care about it enough to do that much action, well then failure didn't wasn't much of a concern to me, right? So understand this about yourself, and understand this about others, that other people are too trying to overcome failures in their life. And if you can be a factor of empowerment, then that you're doing your best. I think then you do deserve to overcome your failures fairly quickly. But the thing is, this is especially if you're not been doing that, I would say that consciously do that, and consciously help another person empower themselves, even if you don't get anything by it, right? Again, like I say, always look at yourself through other people's eyes. Don't expect anything that other people, you will, just because I say it doesn't mean that you will overcome failure. I think there's specific set of actions that you can do, you can continue to take. Understand your situation, understand the situations of the other, understand that overcoming failure is or failure is a set of results that didn't give that. It's a set of actions that didn't yield to the right outcome, or the outcome you were expecting. So nothing to do with your personality, right? So understand this about yourself, understand that this about the other people, understand their difficulties, understand your difficulties, understand failure is part of success. It's a part of another probability of success that you need to account for. You know what I mean? So make sure that you account for it well, and you account for it proudly and openly, and you embrace failure as part of life, and you welcome it. Don't be afraid to say, what, I don't mind a little bit of failure in my life. Don't just say, I don't want to fail in my life. Welcome a little bit of failure. Who do you think is more stronger in life? A person who who only has experience just winning and winning. He might be good at whatever he does in life. But do you want someone who can still be clear headed, and still make the right decisions happen, for not for himself but for everybody? Do you want a leader that's like that, who ability to embrace their failure, deal with setbacks, still go through, move through with a lot of willpower to do the right thing? Who would you want as a leader? A leader who's continually experience winning, doesn't know how to deal with failure, or a leader who has experienced both sides of the game, who knows he can still be maintain his clear-headedness and clarity in his vision, in spite of whether he failed or not, right? So it's something for you to think about. I definitely pick the latter, right? I rather be a person. I know in my life I cannot control 100% of the outcomes and 100% of the things that happen to me, but I can continually take control of the things I can continually can take control of, like what I think about my own self and my thoughts, right? Can't think about other people's thoughts of you. I can control the thoughts of myself, and the way I try to control it, and understanding the situations that the things that has happened to me in my life is based on the information that was available to me, and then I feel like I made the best decision at that time. And if you can comfortably say that, then you have nothing to worry about. I think more you welcome failure in your life, more you embrace it, more you love it, more you see as a necessary part of your life, part of your success, part of your growth. I think your failures will start to bless you and reward you in your life. And it might be hard for you to understand right now, but this is something that I've tested out, and I struggle with a lot in my life. So that's one of the reasons I'm not saying I don't deal with, I don't struggle with failure, but what I'm saying, as a percentage, I have struggled much less, and I actually in fact consider failure as a necessary things in certain situations to guide me in the right direction in which I want to go. Sometimes failure could be meaning that, look, this is not something you're good at, reevaluate, go in another direction. So at that time I decide that as well. So don't use these gems and your assets such as failures to kind of make you feel about bad about yourself, because it truly is not no point if you don't take it for advantage. I always say, rest often, start often. Rest when you fail. When you fail, feel like you failed a little bit, but you start again. You start again. You observe what you did, deal with. I think the more you can work through your failures and face it directly, and pay attention to what's happening, the emotions that's happening when you fail, the more you're comfortable staying there, and more you welcome being okay to feel like that, more your failures will start to reward you. And I truly understand that. So I truly believe that, and I truly do understand that how its nature works. So test it out. Okay, take care.